Kenneth Rooks, welcome to the Running Effect podcast. How are you doing this morning?
Doing great. Doing really great this morning.
Since we last talked, I had you on the podcast after you won an NCAA title in Austin last summer in June. You've won a U.S. title. You've won 2 U.S. titles, made your first Olympic team, silver medalist, second best in the world. How crazy is it to think back to 14 months ago when none of these things had occurred?
It is crazy. I remember thinking 14 months ago, well, just thinking about let's see, 14 months ago, when was that? Was that when I last won my NCAA title?
Probably something like that, 14, 15 months ago.
Okay. Yeah, I think thinking back to 14 months ago, just getting ready to run at the NCAA championship and preparing for that, I didn't necessarily think that this is where I would end up 14 months later with an Olympic silver medal. And definitely last year I didn't expect to win USA's in the way that I did last year with falling down and getting up. So it's been an exciting ride. It's been hard to like envision what the future is going to hold, but one thing that I've been focusing on, especially this year, is focusing on just being curious and enjoying the moment. And that's one thing that I've talked with my sports psychologist about. And that um, it's just, yeah, it is crazy to think about, how I've progressed in the last year and a half. With just how fast I've been able to run, the success that I've been able to have, and a lot of it, I think, comes to just me trying to work on my mindset, and then being curious and having an open mindset, being willing to put myself out there and work hard and being healthy has played a part in that too. Just trying to stay healthy and being as consistent as possible. So.
Was there a shifting point, whether it was a race, a workout, a conversation with Coach Eystone, where you thought, I can do something like play second at the Olympics, win a silver medal, but not just that. Those who watch the race obviously know how you did it, right? You went for the win. It wasn't just for the silver medal. Was there a shifting point for you in terms of belief of like, I'm going from a guy where I think I can do well in the NCAA and like all American and then win to then like, no, I can be one of the guys best in the world, best to ever do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that that mindset has shifted gradually over time. It shifted a little bit when I initially last year I went to the track sound running track fest in May, and I won that race against all the pros, and so then my mindset started to shift a little bit. Like, okay, I can compete with the pros. This is like I didn't necessarily think that I could compete at that level, and then winning the NCAA championship in the way that I did. I won by a pretty substantial margin last year against some really great competition, and I wasn't expecting that, and so like kind of just performing and a little bit better than maybe I expected, and then running at the USA's in 2023, falling down, getting back up, winning. My mindset started to shift. Like, okay, well, I'm I might be able to, maybe compete with the best in the world, and I even at Worlds last year, I got 10th, and going into the race, into the final, because of how successful I had been that year, I actually thought that I could do better than that. Like going into the race, like I was like, well, maybe if everything plays out right, I could have an outside shot of kicking into that top five or maybe even top three, and that's something that I think we talked about a little bit last year, but I wasn't necessarily prepared to make that step last year, um, and part of that I think was because I just wasn't ready to process that kind of success on the world stage yet. But yeah, just getting ready for this year. We just focused on Coach and I focused on just building on what we've already built before. We didn't do necessarily anything different or new. We just kept putting in the work and just getting better and getting faster and getting more experience. But yeah, my mind shifted again at the Olympic trials when I won, and I ended up closing my last 1200 in like 3:03, something like that. And we did go out really slow and had to close really, really fast. But that was a moment where it was like, okay, like I had a moment with my coach and with some other athletes as well. Like even like Hillary Bohr, for example, reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, dude, if you close like that at the Olympics, you can get a medal." And so I think that my coach thought that too. I thought that, but I also didn't want medaling to be my focus because I think that's where I made a little bit of a mistake last year, getting ready for the World Championships last year in the final. I worried and focused a little bit too much on getting a medal, whereas getting ready for the Olympic final this year, talking with my coach, we talked about, there is a possibility that I could medal. I am flying under the radar here. I have one of the best finishes in the field, and I have probably one of the best forms in the field in terms of being efficient, and so we kind of chalked that up as like, okay, well, this could be a possibility. We could medal here, but we're not going to make that our focus. We're just going to focus on running the smart race and giving it everything that I have. Basically focusing on doing all the decisions to put myself in position at the end, where if I had the finish, maybe I could medal, or if I didn't have the finish, I could just walk away and just be happy, regardless of how the outcome was. And really, like I also kind of went in with a mindset into the final of, I have nothing to lose. There's nothing really to lose here. There's all like everything to gain. And this is just a cool opportunity. We're just gonna take it in, have fun with it, and just compete. And so I think that was my mindset and preparation going into the final, and also how my mindset kind of gradually shifted.
What's your mindset now, post Olympics? Are you thinking of gold medals? Like, I mean, at this point, you took me through the progression, which was awesome. Thank you for doing that over the past 15 months of how your mindset has shifted. There's almost been a race every single time that's given you the confidence that you can elevate to that next level. The next logical step is probably best in the world. Am I mistaken? I mean, eight flat is also a barrier that Americans haven't got under. You're right there. What's the general take on Kenneth Rooks in September of 2024?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that some of my mindset shift, like eight flat, is a lot more of a reality now. Like it feels like, okay, I've run 8:06 now. I'm just gonna keep on getting more fit and gaining more experience running fast times, and so eight flat is a lot more realistic now. So I have thought about that. I have thought about. I mean, I was thinking about maybe getting that gold medal that last lap. So I guess after the race is like, well, if if things play out well in the future, I might be able to be a world champion, or an Olympic champion, and so that's cool to think about. Although I think that part of me was also after the Olympics. It was such a high, winning the silver medal and experiencing all the excitement of the Olympics. Part of my mindset is ready for a little bit of a break. And so I think that Like I ran in Silesia, I did fall. I did kind of hurt my shoulder. I do think if I stayed on my feet, I still would have run probably the second fastest time I've run. But I was also, I think, a little bit burnt out at that race. So so part of my mind is a little bit like, okay, well let's take a little bit of a break mentally, physically, and whatever, and then rest and recover, and we'll think about what kind of goals we can focus on for the next season. But I want to try and focus on what's helped me be successful and continue to work on that with my mindset. And it's I mean, staying healthy is a big part too. I've been blessed to have a lot of help this year um, from athletic training staff and PT help and other doctors. I've had a few little tiny hiccups this year that have given me some bumps in the roads with injuries. My Achilles was bugging me for about a month in March, and I had to take a little bit of time off for that. My foot actually started hurting after I ran the Sound Running Track Fest this year, in May, and so the week after I actually only ran like twice because my foot was really bugging me. So I've been blessed to be able to have a lot of help to keep me healthy, and all of these things are cool to think about and dream about. I think that um, I think that I have dreamed about them a little bit, and I just need to remember to focus on remembering who I am, and focusing on what's helped me be successful, and focusing on staying healthy into the future, because you never know what the future is going to hold, and none of those kind of dreams can become a reality unless I am ready with my mind and my body.
I think a lot of people would see something like the U.S. Olympic trials title in the steeplechase or the Olympic silver medal and think the road to get there was pretty smooth. But as you kind of just defined, there were multiple moments throughout the season that you had hiccups, and I'm sure during those points it was scary in the back of your head, like, will I even be able to line up and even have a chance to make the Olympics, much less make the final, much less place second in the world. Can you speak to the listener right now in terms of if they have a little hiccup or something, like keeping that core faith and belief in yourself with that long-term vision that, hey, maybe my foot hurts today, but what can I do today? And, to be optimistic about the future and not get down on myself and think, oh, my season's over.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a common thing that a lot of runners deal with, because at some point, if you're a runner, you're gonna be injured, at least a little bit, and so I think that my brain definitely went through some of the thoughts that you mentioned throughout the season, with just how is this going to affect me getting ready for the trials? Will I be able to get ready for the trials? Like, is this going to make my training not as good? Am I not going to be as fast because I've had to take like a little bit of a break, or I haven't been able to do exactly what I planned? But I've tried to look at it in an optimistic way. To be honest, me having my little Achilles thing in March might have allowed my body to have the break it needed to have so that I could peak at the right time at the Olympics. And so I just have tried to look at it in a positive way that way. And like when my foot started bugging me, it was something that was bothering me, and I was afraid that it was going to turn into something worse, but it was something at the time where if I like had to run on it, like if it was the week of the Olympic trials, I was like, okay, well I can run on this. But it was just like in the back of my mind the fear of like, what if this turns into something worse? But sometimes I feel like the biggest thing is to just be patient, trust that like your body is going to be fine. It's going to remember, like, even talking to it's funny, Cole Hawker and Cooper Tier and Aiden Tooker came down for like a little training stint here in Provo, actually, to get some altitude training back in March and February, and like that was kind of when I was a little bit hurt. One thing they even would say and remind me is like, oh well, you're gonna get back a lot quicker than you think you are. Like that, like the body is more resilient than you think. And so focusing on like, okay, my body can remember, I'm gonna be fine. Like I'm just gonna do what I can control, and um just stay positive, and things will work out. I think also just like faith is a big part of my life, like faith in God. And faith is defined as something that you believe in or that you hope for, which is not seen. And I feel like with training, there's a lot of parallels with faith. There's a lot of work that you put in. There's sometimes little hiccups in the road, and you just have to have the faith that the things that you're doing, as long as you're doing the best you can, that things will eventually work out. And you may not be able to see it at the moment, but just being patient and just trusting that things are gonna get better is something that's really really important. And I mean, I'm very blessed to be able to have only had those like hiccups. I have had lots of teammates in college and otherwise who've had really bad injuries where they've had to take a lot of time off, and it has not lined up with their training how they've wanted. They've had to miss out on races or other opportunities that they really would love to be a part of and that they've dreamed about, and that's really really hard. um, I think that um, I haven't necessarily been in a situation where I've missed out on that much. I've been hurt before. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. My senior year in high school, I was getting ready for the state meet, and I pulled my hamstring in practice, and that was really hard for me because I had been working and peaking for the state meet to run my best times, and I basically wasn't able to finish off my senior season. I wasn't able to run to the potential that I wanted to run at. And it took me a while to kind of recover from that. I started my senior, not my senior year, my freshman year in college right after that. And I still was kind of healing from that, and I didn't have the freshman cross country season that I wanted to have. But at the end of that freshman year, I actually ended up, because I did get hurt again in the fall. I got hurt again, so I didn't end up racing indoors, and but the outdoor season, I ended up exceeding my expectations. I qualified for nationals and ran as a true freshman at the NCAA championships in the steeplechase. So you never know what's in store. Just keep working, keep trying, and uh, there's lots of things you can hope for. And you just never know what the future's going to hold. It's hard when you look at in the moment at what's right in front of you and being like, man, like I can't run right now. Like how am I supposed to be able to to do all these things in the future? And maybe there's more in store than you think.
You mentioned your faith there briefly, diving deeper into that. And we definitely talked about it last time I had you on the podcast, but revisiting it, how much do you feel like something like your faith and your faith in God has grounded you through those tougher moments, whether it's a hiccup, bad race, but also on the contrary, even through the very successful moments when you're maybe getting more outside attention, pressure, stress, having that thing to come back to ground you? Can you speak more on your faith and what it means to you?
That's a great question. I think that a lot of my, I guess, the strength that I found through my faith, it's come throughout my life. Just trying to, uh, strengthen my relationship with Jesus Christ. Trying to be close to Him through prayer, through studying the Word of God, through going to church and stuff, and my I was a missionary for my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for 2 years, and I was able to spend 2 years of my life focusing on Jesus Christ and focusing on others and how I could, you know, share the hope that comes through Jesus Christ and through the gospel of Jesus Christ with others. And it was that was very transformative for me to not only see how the gospel of Jesus Christ can help bring hope and lift others, but how it lifted myself. And throughout my life, I've learned um, that I can always fall back on my faith in Jesus Christ. That is something that is constant. He is always there. And I have felt in the good times and the bad times, his love for me. I remember in particular, like that one race that that one experience that I talked about where I got hurt my senior year. Like that was really hard for me. I was really sad, and um, but that's actually a moment in my life where I felt the love of Jesus Christ the most in my life. There was an experience that I had where I just it was a few days after I pulled my hamstring, and like I'd been holding myself together pretty well, just being positive and like, okay, well, season's done, but I can get healthy and I can get back. Like my body can heal and I'll be fine in the future. But it was just really hard for me. There was one day I just started kind of breaking down and I started crying, and I just felt like Jesus Christ like embraced me in his arms, and that he just let me know that he loved me. And even though like I was in like a circumstance that I didn't want to be in, that he loved me and he cared about what I cared about, and that you know, um, he was sad with me too. And so I just that was a special moment for me. But even in the good times, um, I feel like I know that God is aware of me, and because of um, my experience in life, just trying to strengthen that relationship with Jesus Christ, like I can walk into a race, I can walk into other circumstances. I know that I'm in the hands of the Lord, and however it's going to turn out, whether I have crazy success or not, I'm in the hands of the Lord, and that's really what matters most. And I just find strength that part of my life. I can always rely upon him. I always know that he loves me and that he's there. Um, and and even when I struggle, I know that I can lean on him for strength. I feel like even when I get ready for races, I try and read a scripture or two to ground me a little bit and help remind me a little bit what matters most. Um, and I also think that sometimes, when I have the success that I have, I try and remember that the moment is bigger than myself. That I can be an instrument in God's hands to lift other people, to give them a little bit of hope, because Jesus Christ wants us all to have hope. And it's been cool to see, especially through the last year and a half, the hope and the inspiration that has come through the successes that I've had and the races that I've been able to run, and the good influence that it's had upon others. And it's very humbling for me to be a part of that. And so I think that even in the good times, just remembering that there's part of the reason why I am having the success that I am having is not because I am just so good, but it's also because God cares about all these amazing people in the world, and who also have like their hopes and their struggles and their successes. And it's cool that he kind of can reach out to them a little bit through me, and the successes that I have. So but like the biggest thing that helps me stay grounded, on that is just trying to do things that remind me of God and of Jesus Christ and what matters most. And my wife has also helped me out a lot. She actually, because we got married in February this year, she'll remind me on if there's moments where maybe I need to remember that, or maybe I'm forgetting that a little bit. And so I'm grateful for her as well, who's helped me. And I I just don't think that I would have. I don't think I would have the success that I have had um, without Christ. But even if I hadn't have had the success that have had, then I still am grateful, and Jesus Christ would still be my rock, and my strength, regardless of the successes that I have. So
I think something interesting that I want to dive into you and get your response on. You and many members of the BYU team or your current team currently have gone on 2-year missions as a part of LDS. You yourself, as you mentioned, had gone on one. We talked about that last time I had you on the podcast. You went to Uganda for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
But something so cool is like the average person, you'd think they take 2 years off and, either their running career is over, or they like, or the progress is just ameliorated. For you guys, it seems like for whatever reason, like it maybe takes a year of adjustment, but you ultimately end up getting better. What's your take on that as someone who was in it? Where if you look on paper that you took 2 years off not that long ago, the logical response would be you're not winning silver at the Olympics. Why do you think you guys are able to bounce back so quick? And maybe what are some positives you think of taking that kind of 2-year break from running and focusing on your faith?
yeah. I think that's a good question. Yeah, there is a good chunk of the BYU athletes who have been missionaries, and some of them haven't. But there is a good chunk who have. But I feel like being a missionary, it teaches you to trust in God and trust in His timing and His strength. Sometimes, like being a missionary, it is amazing and it is beautiful, and there are many miracles. But there are hard times too, and so it teaches you to deal with adversity. It teaches you to appreciate the happiness and the joys. It teaches you to be just mentally strong. I feel like there's a mindset, I think that like can come the strength that can come from being a missionary, and taking 2 years of your life to focus on God. I I do think that in terms of like, I mean, no, like training is not like the focus. Like I got out of shape. I gained probably like 25 pounds the first 9 months I was a missionary. Everyone's experience as a missionary is a little bit different in terms of like how their health is. But I mean, that wasn't necessarily my focus, but it was nice to be able to come back to BYU and have had also teammates who have also gone through the same process, who have come back after being out of shape. And sometimes, like getting back from being a missionary, it can be hard. I remember going out for. I remember trying to run a mile as hard as I could when I was a missionary. I ran like 4:53, and it was like, man, how could I do mile repeats faster than this? Just like a year ago. But uh, it just it just like being a missionary teaches you to be patient, but also it just um, and patient and put in the work. And so that's just what you have to apply when you get back. You just be patient, put in the work, and trust that the fitness will come. Fitness will come back, and not everybody who is a missionary ends up getting back and getting fit and getting better than they were before. There are a few that do struggle with getting back into shape, but I I feel like there's more blessings. Uh, I mean, it is a risk in terms of training. You take 2 years where you don't focus on training and you don't really train, um, and you get out of shape. But there are so much more blessings that come, that outweigh that risk. And so I think that, definitely, um, regardless of the experience of all the BYU athletes who've been at the Olympics, whether they've been missionaries or not, I feel like, faith and, belief, especially belief in God, has played a part in all of our, um, successes, and our mindsets in our lives. So
You took me through some of the hiccups you had gone through earlier this season, making you question what you potentially could do. Was there a specific workout leading into trials or Olympics that you remember stepping off the track and looking at Coach Eyestone or a teammate and being like, "Ooh, we're back. We're ready. We're ready to go."
yeah, yeah, that's a great question. Well, a week before the trials, I I had a really good workout. It was a workout that was kind of like the workouts that I had last summer, getting ready for Worlds. I feel like, um, we it was a steeple workout. We do 12-8, 12-8, which is our typical steeple workout, and we do first and last lap over barriers with the hurdles. Well, not with the hurdles. First and last lap over, hurdles for the 1200s, and then the last lap of the 800s over hurdles. And, I just remember we did. Um, I think it was, 313 was my first 1200, and then we did like 20 208 or something like that, and then we did, then I did 312, and then did like 206, and I felt really good about that workout. But, one cool thing about that workout was James Corrigan did that workout with me, and because of our schedules have had a hard time lining up, it was we did do like a steeple workout together like once earlier, but I was like dealing with some foot things, so I didn't do the whole thing or whatever. But, that was the one where we really kind of like did it together, and he actually stuck with me on the first one. Was with me on the first 800. He was like two-ish seconds. He was about 2 seconds back, or 2 to 3 seconds back on the second, um, 1200, and um, he actually, was a second ahead of me on the last 800, and so he was close to me. But that was my best workout, of the steeple workout of the year at that point in time. And actually, I may be getting trying to remember. I may be getting the splits wrong. It may have been for the 1200s, but I know the eights are right. But anyways, long story short, it was around there. But, but James was like really close to me with me go. I was really happy. I was like, okay, that's my best workout of the year. I'm ready to go for the trials. And James was like really close, and it's like, okay, James, you should be able to run under 820. Where did this come from? Kind of a deal. I mean, I knew he was fit and he was looking really good for the NCAA championships, and he just didn't have a great race in the. Well, he had a good race in the final. It just wasn't, as good as he probably could have done at the NCAA finals. But, yeah, so that was definitely like that was a cool workout for me and for James. And then getting ready for the Olympics, I had another 12-8, 12-8 workout where, um, anyways, it did really. I think I went 312 and then 311 on my 12s, yeah, and then on my eights I was like 207, and then like 2:05. So it was a little bit faster. And so that was like, okay, I'm ready. I can run 65s and 64s. And also for the steeple workouts, we try and run our goal race pace on the open laps and then a few seconds faster for the open laps. So like if we're running like 3:12, for example, that means we're running like probably like a 64, a 62, and then a 65 or something like that. Or maybe 65, 65, 62, or 64, 64, 63, or whatever, somewhere in there. I need to go back and look at the sheet to figure that out. But I was like, okay, well, I'm feeling like I'm ready to do 65s, maybe 64s, and so that was also like a confidence booster for me. But it was nerve-wracking going into the Olympics, knowing that like, okay, I think I can run under 8:10. I think that I could run close to 8:05, but I haven't done that yet. Again, and all of these guys who I'm racing against have a lot of experience running at those times, and so that was really nerve-wracking going into the Olympics, being like, okay, well, I think I can do this, but I'm not sure because I haven't done it yet. And so just having to like go in and just race and just trust that it would come together as long as I just raced and trusted in my fitness. So anyway, that was so those are a few workouts that where I was like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Something unique to you, but also I think there are other guys on the BYU team who illustrate it. Connor Mance being one of them, having coined the term like the Mance zone from his cross years. When you watch Kenneth Rooks race, it is like grit on display. People who watch the Olympics can certainly, understand where I'm coming from. Or last year's U.S. Championship. I mean, and this year's, but last year specifically after falling, getting up and just like running your way to glory. You want it. You can tell you want it when you race, and you just look different than the other guys in terms of like it is visible. You want to go for it. You want to get every ounce of your potential. Where does that come from, and how do you get that 100% effort out on the track? I mean, that last 100 in Paris was a sight to behold.
Yeah, I think that like where do I get that grit from exactly? I think I always well one I'm competitive. I'm very competitive. Um, Two, I think my favorite thing at the end of a race um, is to run as hard as I can. I love it when there's finally a lap to go because then I can just kind of let loose and go. I think where else does that strength come from? I feel like the grit and the determination is something that I've had that I've kind of always had to a certain degree. Um, I think that I'm driven a little bit by, you know, I do want to give it my best. I do want to give it everything I have, and it's very fulfilling to basically grit down and give it everything that you have. It's very very satisfying. Um, but in terms of like what kind of develops that grit, I think part of it is I keep going back to my faith uh, in in God and my faith in Jesus Christ. I think that I just keep coming back to that because I feel like that has taught me a lot about grit and a lot about determination. Um, like I feel like um, my faith in Jesus Christ has helped motivate me to not give up in times of my life where I kind of want to. And so I feel like that has helped my grit. Um, I feel like um, I probably learned some of my grit. I think from just growing up. I think my parents helped teach me that a little bit. I also think that I've learned that sometimes you have to take like a little bit of a risk to achieve your potential, or to basically put yourself in new territory and do something that maybe you wouldn't have you've never done before, or do something that surprises yourself. And so I think just knowing that has helped me be able to take risks in the race and I think that helps with my grit and determination. Um, I think the grit and the determination also just comes through practice. I mean, the grit and the determination, like you talk about the grit and determination, the last 100 meters, I feel like that has been something that has been a strength of mine. I feel like I have that grit and that determination. But it's also come through practice. I mean, part of it is going and doing workouts. You know, you do long workouts where you get your body hurting. Sometimes if you're doing long workouts, you're hurting for a long period of time. You're doing shorter, faster stuff. You're hurting and it's a different kind of hurt. It kind of burns, and so I think part of it is just practice, practicing pushing myself. It helps me get ready for moments where I can kind of dig down deep and show that grit. Um, I feel like I also am kind of fishing a little bit for an answer. Uh,
Hey, those are all good stuff. Those are all good
um,
stuff.
yeah, but those are all like little pieces, parts and pieces that have, I think, helped me develop grit and the determination that I have. But essentially, basically, like the more you keep um, trying to give it your all, and the more I've tried to give it my all, and the more I've tried to, keep going or keep trying or getting up and just making a decision like, okay, well, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna I'm it's gonna hurt, but the pain's temporary. I'm just gonna go do it. Or just being entirely motivated by, like, I just want to give it everything I have, or I want to beat this guy. Like, I'm really competitive in that way. Like the last 100 meters of the Olympics, like I really didn't want to get bronze. I wanted to get silver. So I was really because I mean, El Bucali passed me, and I just really wanted to fight as hard as I could to get to that finish line. Um, but the more I keep choosing to just keep trying or give it the best that I can, um, then it just helps me keep giving more the next time. It makes it a little bit easier to make that decision to grit down, and so I think that. I guess if I simplify all of those thoughts down, uh, that the more a person tries to do their best, the easier it is to have that grit. I guess does that make sense at all?
It does. It does. Some good thoughts there. Kenneth, something I want to ask you about as we start to close up this conversation. High school, you were definitely a really good athlete, and specifically for your time, you were solid, but I think you were a 410, 920 guy. You look at the best guys in the country now who may never even make it to the Olympics, and they're going, top recruit this year was 357, 831, 1434. I mean, just astronomical times. For
Yeah.
you, you've gotten better every single year. Can you kind of speak to that progression of how a 920 high school guy won silver in the Olympics? Because I think it's important to hone in on for those 920 guys out there listening of, like, you might not be the best now, but this sport is a long game, and if you commit yourself to excellence over a decade, you're going to get better and you're going to see those results.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a few thoughts that come to my mind. Number one, the 920. I actually think I could have run faster, but I didn't have the experience or the knowledge of how to run faster in the 3200 yet. And like I run the 3K steeplechase in college, and my training in college helped prepare me to run that and helped me get the experience I needed to run that. And so, part of why I ran 920 in high school is because I just lacked some experience. And so going into the future, understanding that the more experience you have, the better you're going to be, the better you're going to know how to run a race, um, the better you're going to be able to actually give it every ounce of energy that you have, give it your all. And you can give it your all and not necessarily perform to the best of your ability, but in part of giving it your all, sometimes uh, you learn that, oh, actually, if I do this and this and this and this, I could actually run a little bit faster. And then so I guess that's also something else, like, to remember, is that, um, like, just because, like, you ran a race and you gave it your all and you ran a certain time, that doesn't mean that that time is your limit. Like, you might still be able to run faster, and if you work at it and keep, like, either you can work on your training or work on your mental or work on your strategy or whatever. I think something else that comes to mind with me is, I remember when I was in middle school, when I first got into track, and or maybe even right before middle school, like, I remember watching high school cross country meets, and I remember knowing, like, the time that I ran in the mile, um, in, like, my 7th grade and my 6th grade year, and I remember being like, how are these guys running that fast? That seems like so impossible to me. Like, how is that possible? And they're like, they're only like a few years older than me. Like, how are they running this fast? And then, um, getting into high school, I ended up running faster than all of those times that I saw at that particular cross country meet. So I think that I would sometimes remember my little naive self, at that cross country meet, being like, how is this possible? I don't think that, like, my brain cannot comprehend this right now. But, sometimes you're capable of more than what you may think of at the moment. And I even remember going into college and being like, I remember getting recruited by BYU and looking at the 5K times everyone was running, and I wasn't getting recruited as a 5K guy, but being like, how are they running that fast? It just was mind boggling to me. And or even, like, looking at the times that the Olympians were running, like, how are they running that fast? Um, it's I guess just try have an open mind, and just put in the work, and you might actually be able to run faster than you think you can. And yeah, just try not to put a limit on yourself, but also be patient with yourself. Be smart. Training is a long process that, you just have to be wise. Sometimes you can push yourself a little too hard in your training, and if you're basically going to the well every single day, then you can sometimes burn yourself out or get injured. And so trying to find the balance of, like, of working hard and stretching yourself, um, while also not necessarily working yourself so hard that you're going to injure yourself too. So, and that's a hard balance, and that balance you're just going to have to learn through experience and just based off of feel. But if you come out of a workout where maybe you didn't do as good as you thought, but you're like, man, that was tough, that was hard, but you didn't run as fast as you could, and just appreciate that workout stretched you and that you're gonna grow from that. Or maybe if you, like, ran a really good workout and you felt good, you felt in control mentally and physically in the workout, then, just be happy with that. Like, okay, I'm growing, like, I'm getting better mentally at this, doing this kind of a pace, or at this workout or whatever. And so just trying to to take every moment as like experience and learning and growing. And um, like if you have a bad day, or if you have a few bad days, like that's just part of the process. Um, and where some athletes spiral backwards, is when they kind of lose hope, or they look at some of either where they're at, and they basically just um, put a limit on themselves, um, because they just lose hope, and when the reality is their situation's probably a lot better than their mind might think. The mind plays tricks on you all the time. Um, so anyway,
Yeah,
those are some of my thoughts.
I like it. Thanks for sharing, man. One final question for you on a lighter note. Kenneth Rooks off season. What are you up to these days? What are some of your favorite non-running activities? And just give the people an update on how the body's feeling.
Yeah, so I guess to begin with an update on how the body's feeling, I fell a little over a week ago at the Celestia Diamond League. I don't know when this podcast is going out, but at least when we were recording this, I about a little week ago fell at the Celestia Diamond League, and my shoulder's doing okay. Got an MRI on it. I have an AC joint sprain. It's a grade 1 to 2 AC joint sprain, and uh, my AC ligament. The MRI shows my AC ligament's torn, but everything else is fine. So luckily, my shoulder is actually doing okay, and my range of motion is getting better every day, and it's hurting less and less every day. And I actually can start into PT right now, and yeah, it's good. I'm just gonna work on getting my shoulder healed and strengthened. So, and I'm think my shoulder's feeling good enough that I think that I can go on a run here within this next week. So that's nice that I can that that I could do that. I'm feeling like so. Yeah, that's positive for me in terms of like what I've been doing after the Olympics. I stayed in Europe, ran that Diamond League meet in Silesia, which was fun to kind of we stayed in Belgium, Leuven, Belgium. It's a little training location there, which was kind of fun being around the old town and old city there, and it was just a fun location. But now I'm just getting actually ready to get back into school. I start classes on September 4th, and at BYU. I have 2 semesters left for my bachelor's degree in civil engineering. That's what I'm doing right now. My wife just started grad school for marriage and family therapy, and yeah, we've just been home. We've just honestly been celebrating with anybody and everybody we see. It's been awesome. It's cool to go to the BYU football game, get recognized this last Saturday, and yeah, I'm hoping to go visit my grandparents here this next weekend as well. So that's kind of what I've been up to. Um, yeah, it's been it's been good. It's been good, and there's lots of good things ahead. So.
Well, if I've learned one thing from the 2 episodes I've done with you, you're full of wisdom, one. And two, anytime I think there's a ceiling on your potential, you just break right through it. So everyone go buy Kenneth Rooks stock because every single year this man keeps elevating the game for steeplechase in America. Kenneth, really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, dropping all those insights and pieces of wisdom. And man, can't wait to see all the things God has in store for you in 2025 and beyond. So appreciate it. And yeah, keep crushing it, man.
All
Sky's
right,
the limit.
thanks. Appreciate it.